So he emailed me and said, got me in contact with Mark and then said, would you like to move to Korea? And then I prayed about it and it was instantly I knew that it was right to come here. So I moved. I'm Grace Pearson, I'm 19 years old and I'll be telling about my story last summer where I had a brain condition and God healed me. I had had a headache all day and it turned into a migraine later on in the evening, so I ended up going to bed early. During the night though I woke up with feeling sick, so I tried to get out of bed but realised that I couldn't walk. It was really difficult. I was dizzy and really experiencing nausea, so I ended up going to the bathroom but ended up falling over a couple of times. Ended up being sick in the bathroom and trying to make it back, but because it was movement that the bleeding affected, it really was difficult for me, and I had a really big pain in my head, in the back of my head, which was affecting my vision. I ended up staying the night in the bathroom, using the rug as a blanket because I was freezing cold, just lying on the bathroom floor and waking up every 30 minutes or so and being sick and then going back to sleep. At the time I didn't know this, but I was going in and out of consciousness, but I ended up going back to my bed during the early hours of the morning, and because it was movement that made me sick again, and I ended up throwing up several times. It was during summer break, so I was looking after two girls, nannying them through the summer holidays while their parents were at work. So that was during the summer holidays, so the next morning the youngest girl came in to wake me up, all happy, but realised that I'd been sick, I'd thrown up, so she was worried and asked me about it, and then got her mum, Stacey, who came in and asked me questions, but because due to the nature of what had happened, I wasn't able to think anything, so I just wanted to sleep it off. I just wanted to go back to sleep and didn't want to make a fuss, anything, but she insisted on taking me to the hospital, taking me to the doctors, so the girls guided me by supporting me down the stairs, took me downstairs to the car where they drove me to the hospital. They took me to the doctors when they gave me a wheelchair, took me upstairs, asked me questions, did a couple of tests, including an MRI scan. So they took me to the hospital, then they gave me another wheelchair, and I couldn't move without assistance because I was so weak, my body was really, really weak, and so they wheeled me up, did more tests, MRIs and CTs, and gave me morphine and steroids and all these other drugs to cease the pain because it was really, really painful, and to lower the bleeding as well.
And these are the results of those MRIs and other tests. These images clearly show why Grace felt the way she did. The professor's diagnosis reads, "The lady suffered from severe headaches on 30 July. Followed by nausea and vomiting on 31 July, and then visited our emergency center. Brain MRI revealed acute hematoma of 40 millimeters in the longest diameter, and surrounding edema with abnormal vessels at left cerebellum."
The first time I remember having feelings was before they told me they had to do an operation on me where they had to stick a tube in my thigh up the main artery into my brain and pump liquid into my brain for tests, and that was while I was fully conscious, so they were telling me this about it, and I got quite nervous about it, like understandably I think, but apart from that feeling, I remember Pastor John was reading Andrew Murray, the book on healing, to me, and just while he was reading that out loud to me, I'd had this sudden sense of fear, like I'd was thinking over what the doctors had said about how I had a 20 to 30% chance of it rebleeding again, and if it did, it would go into my breathing part of the brain, which could be fatal for me because it could be a larger bleed. So I was just thinking about that, and I just had a sudden sense of fear, like I was going to die, and that just like a wave just rushed over me. Practically speaking, the most important choice that I had to make was to have the surgery or not, to have the malformation removed or to do nothing about it. But spiritually, it was to listen to the word of God or to listen to people, to listen to man's educated voice about the statistics and what my life would be like, or to take everything to God and let him show me what he was going to do, that he was going to heal me. It was a really important choice that I could have made the wrong choice, but he really spoke to me about healing. I had to listen to a lot of doctors and surgeons' voices. I remember one person referred to me as having a ticking time bomb in my head, that the rest of my life I would live in fear, that any day could be my last, that I would just constantly be questioning whether I was going to live any longer, which really stood out to me and really placed fear into me. So I was in the hospital for 9 days. We ended up praying. That was my parents, Pastor John and Pastor Joe. We were sitting in the 2-man hospital room, just seeking God, praying out loud every day. Every day trying to seek what God wanted to say to me. I remember it was the last day. It was minutes before the doctors came in to have the final verdict of whether to cancel the surgery or to continue with it. And we were just praying all together out loud. And I just felt God speak to me, like whisper into my heart, into my spirit, that he was going to heal me. Like it was going to be a really, really hard journey, but he was going to be with the whole journey throughout. And I felt really convicted as to like, who am I that I can do a better job, like thinking I can do it in my own strength, and just felt really convicted as to, if I say that I believe in the Bible, his word, if I believe in God, then I have to believe in everything in the Bible, and he says he's my healer and he's going to heal me today. So that was a really clear voice, but it wasn't a booming voice, it wasn't an audible voice, it was just a quiet conversation with me and God that really gave me confidence.
So Grace was discharged from the hospital, and after a few days returned to the UK with her parents.
Every day I had to press into what he was saying, to read his word, to study it. One of my all-time favourite verses is Jeremiah 29:11. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. They are plans for good and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." And that was one thing that I had to really stand on, that he was going to give me a future. And he knew everything about me before I was born. He planned it. He was there. Relearning things was really difficult because I had ability beforehand, and in an instant it was taken away. So learning how to walk again, learning how to think again, to see, was really, really difficult. I would walk into a lot of walls literally because my balance was off. I would have my head down because it was really, really heavy the whole time. So just practical living was really hard, and I had to rely on a lot of people for things that I could do before. Spiritually, it was to keep that going, to keep pressing into what God had said to me, that I had to rely heavily on God to get me through it because I couldn't do it through my own strength. What I really brought to God, I think, was my really deepest feelings and desires and prayers, that I wasn't buttering it up at all. I wasn't trying to make a prayer more significant. I was just opening my heart, and it would just come out as raw as it was. I wouldn't say special words or anything that I had been taught. It was just my feelings, and sometimes I would just spend time like crying out to God, just pure just feelings, asking God for guidance. I'm 100% healed now, and I believe that with all my heart. And we have medical proof that I'm healed. We had an MRI scan in January, and that showed there was no malformation in my brain, so there's no signs of it happening again.
And here's that proof. Just 6 months after Grace was rushed into the ER with a life-threatening brain condition, top neurosurgeons in the UK captured these MRI images. No more vascular malformation. And notice what the written report says. As you are probably aware, we are unable to identify any arteriovenous malformation to account for the cerebellar hemorrhage which occurred while she was in South Korea.
Every situation now has been changed, the way that I face it, because I know that I can't do things on my own strength, that I know now to take every little thing to God, that He cares about it. Every small thing that I have, I can just completely take it to God, and there's no condemnation in that He's just going to bring victory in everything that I bring to Him, and just take it all to a Father that loves me. The impact that it had on my family, apart from bringing us closer together, is that it brought us a lot closer to God. I think when these things happen, you reevaluate who you're living for and how you're living your life. So I think our family has learned to take things to God and to depend on Him for everything in our lives.